like essentially don't even know anything about it aside just like last week. Is that what you right?
No.
So
Okay, but there's like 8 questions per thing. And there was like 20 different types of anemia.
Correct. So, what's hallmark about each one that we spend any time on?
Okay.
So, anemia, I could ask you those symptoms with any type of anemia.
Okay.
Because
Big
what's the
ol'.
problem? Low red blood cells, low hemoglobin, therefore, he's got XYZ anemia, you're gonna have less symptoms. But then go through anemia by anemia, and then decide if there's something unusual that goes with that symptom, something that we talked about that's kind of unique to that one that kind of didn't apply to the other ones. It's kind of how I would tackle your anemias. So like iron deficiency anemia, without looking at your notes, tell me what would be the 3 things you would write down or know about those? You suspect what to be the cause of iron deficiency anemia if you're taking care of a United States citizen? Blood loss, correct. So you're the nurse, you're trying to figure out what the cause is, you're here in the United States, what kind of history would you start to evaluate with that patient? Okay, what are some funky symptoms of that one that don't really go with the other ones? Okay, what else? What kind of tongue?
Smooth and red tongue.
Smooth and red tongue. What kind of nails? Brittle and rigid, and what's another really weird symptom?
the pickup, the ice.
Yes,
But you
the
said
weird
the
cravings. Ice, starch, dirt.
Okay.
So your patient comes in, has these symptoms, you anticipate what kind of anemia is going on, or the other way around. He comes in with iron deficiency anemia, you suspect what cause. So could you rattle that off if somebody's in the United States? Or he comes in with iron deficiency anemia, you expect what symptoms to be going on. So that's how we could flip that all back and forth.
So you had an NCLEX question today about like how to take your iron supplements. Do we need to know how to take iron supplements for the test on next week?
No.
No.
Roll it out.
About it.
Tell me the 65 sources of good iron testing. Renal disease, we're not gonna talk about that anemia, we talked about renal last week. Inflammation 1, no. Aplastic anemia, we covered that in the NCLEX review questions, right? Aplastic means what's going on with the cells. Correct, all cells. Absence of, what is that word, the meaning decreased all cells? Pancytopenia. So if you see that word, penia always means decreased number of, cyte means cells, and just, that's the way it's worked. Pancytopenia means all cells are decreased.
So for that one, a special thing I wrote down was that they ingested too many benzene products.
Correct.
And
They messed up their bone marrow because of exposure to some kind of toxins, benzene products, like airplane glue, paint, stuff like that.
so you can be like, this person's a thinker. He's not.
So your patient's diagnosed with aplastic anemia, you look back on his history and you suspect what is the cause. Could be the way that might go, right? Or you expect what kind of lab values, which kind of was what we went over with. And if you see that word pancytopenia, that means all the cells are diminished.
What were the lab values?
Well, they're
Everything's
already down.
decreased. Aplastic anemia is the bone marrow can't produce any of the cells correctly. They're all going to be depleted. Stem cell transplantation might be the only solution for that because the bone marrow has been damaged due to some sort of, typically exposure to something.
Do all of the anemias have the thick red tone? Or is it only just that one?
They might, but just keep track of the ones that we actually specifically have on here is going with that anemia. How about that for a 4 answer?
Sure.
Symptoms that go with decreased folic acid.
No, that's.
They're the neurovascular
Numbness,
stuff.
tingling.
Yep. Decreased B12. If you never had the intrinsic factor to absorb it to begin with, that's called what kind of anemia? Pernicious. You have the intrinsic factor, but what could have caused you to have decreased?
GI issues or alcohol.
Correct. So he has decreased vitamin B12. You suspect blood in his history that might have triggered that or brought that on or be the cause of that. Symptoms that go with vitamin B12 deficiencies.
Low energy.
That goes with all the anemias. Specifically with
Just like the
pernicious.
nerve, I think.
Smooth red tongue and more of the neurovascular stuff again. Extremity paresthesia, state disturbances. Sickle cell disease. Priority always going to be sickle cell crisis. You're going to manage his airway, breathing, circulation, but you're going to teach him to avoid what triggers?
Dehydration.
Dehydration,
The private.
High
plan.
altitudes.
high altitudes,
Like changing the temperature, so you wanna make sure they have.
temperature changes,
The pressure.
non-pressurized aircraft. Your jets are pressurized, but he says, I like to go up in a little private plane, biplane with my buddy. No, they're not pressurized. Or I want, we signed up to do a helicopter excursion when we're on vacation next week. No. All of those things that you are not jets, all those little private small planes are not pressurized.
So only like the bigger planes are pressured?
Correct, and you'll know by reading it whether he's talking about a little small plane with his buddy or if he's talking about getting on a 747.
Is there technically two crises with, cause there's the, like the A.
There are technically three, but the one that you're gonna get is, sickle cell crisis typically means that first one where their blood flow has been included. Because their sickle cell shaped cells
Get together.
have gotten stuck and included, exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
Sick red blood cells.
I'm trying to prove those guys are taking their makeup tests, that's one. So temperature changes you talked about, infections, dehydration, strong emotions, having a baby, temperature changes as in outside temperature or swimming in, going on polar bear plunge, January procedures, non-pressurized, smoking, stress. And you will have a question about that because it is crisis that we're talking about. But in answer to your question, there are three different kind of crises, but the one that I'm most concerned about is the vaso-occlusive, meaning including vessels,
Which could be anywhere.
which could be any vessel that gets occluded because of sickles, because the cells are shaped the way they are, they just.
So is sickle cell considered a type of anemia since their blood isn't like flowing how it should, or like we don't worry about labs at all for sickle cell because so we're never on to that?
I wouldn't go there. You have great thought, and it probably all that could correlate, but stick to what's going on with sickle cell disease, knowing that it includes, so absolutely all the blood values could be all totally messed up, but
But we're not gonna